Alright, so what's going on, guys? It is your boy, Tickety Orange here, back in here on PlayStation Source, and we got a ton of stuff to talk about here. So, if you guys recall last week over here on Joyclicks Gamescast, check out that podcast link below in the description. Me and Christian talked about how there was a bunch of rumors going around that we will recap when we get to the video portion of this video, even though you're watching the video right now, but this is the intro, and then the... and then the main, I'm an idiot, but we will get to the whole recap. But essentially, there are some rumors going around about how, there are multiple Silent Hills games in development right now, but this is now blown up with new information brought to us from Jack of All Controllers from a 4chan post that was back in January that allegedly Sony is looking to acquire a bunch of IP for the PS5. So without further ado, let's break down how right now we have the rumors going around that Sony is looking to acquire the IPs to the likeness of Metal Gear, Castlevania, and Silent Hills for the PlayStation 5. Alright guys, so before we get to what happened this weekend, we have to do a little backtracking and really explain what happened and came out at the end of last week around Thursday and Friday. So what happened was there was a source called Rely on Horror and a thread that was published on Twitter from a Capcom insider named Aesthetic Gamer, who have both kind of relayed this information to us overall. So what was basically said is that Sony is funding two different Silent Hills games. One is Silent Hill franchise reboot, and the other one is a revival of Silent Hills, right? So let's go over what Silent Hills is first. Silent Hills is going to be a project for the PS5 that was what they were trying to do with PT, and so of course they had Kojima and Konami back when Kojima was still working at Konami back in, I think it was 2014 was when PT came out, 2015, something like that, where of course the PT demo came out. That whole thing was crazy. At the end of it, if you beat it, you got a little sneak peek at Norman Reedus in game, and it, splash screen Silent Hills, and so it was going to be a Silent Hills game for the PS4, but then of course that got canceled, and then the rest is history. But the other game is supposed to be a Silent Hills reboot. Again, I'm trying to say the games phonetically correct. So there's Silent Hills, which is the Kojima PT one, and then there's Silent Hill, which is a franchise reboot that is supposed to be developed by SIE Japan Studio, and has been apparently in development for about a year now, and there's writers on it and stuff like that, and there's overall just development and work going into it currently. And mainly the source says that this is the only Silent Hill project that is actually in active development right now. So out of all these games that we're about to talk about, really the only one that's actually happening right now actively is that soft reboot. And this actually isn't the first time we've heard about this Silent Hill reboot in the past. We have heard about this before, as been rumored in the past. However, it was rumored alongside another Silent Hill game that was supposed to be some sort of anthology or episodic Silent Hills game as well. So there was always supposed to be a reboot as well as this Silent Hills anthology episodic Silent Hills game as well. And so if I'm following this all right, because there's a lot of info about this, right? And so if I'm following this correctly, I believe that rumored episodic Silent Hills game that was rumored next to the Silent Hills reboot that now we know is likely in development by Japan Studio and has been in development for about a year now and stuff like that, that other episodic Silent Hills experience is apparently the kind of like coming back to and not like reboot, but them continuing Hideo Kojima's famously canceled title Silent Hills back in the day, back in like 2014, 2015, with of course PT and stuff like that we talked about earlier on in the video. So allegedly, Kojima's Silent Hills is being redone for the PS5 and is being continued to be worked on and will release on PS5, but it will be in an episodic style. And so this is supposed to give him, quote, full creative freedom. It will be more akin to a Telltale supermassive game, narrative-driven title and stuff like that. And it looks like it will also be taking advantage of next-gen PlayStation VR headsets and of course PS5. So that is what we're looking at here. So it looks like that like past rumored episodic game either was always intended to or turned into the kind of relaunch or re-release, if you will, or the actually continuing of production of Kojima's Silent Hills game, which of course started with the PT demo back in 2013, 2014, 2015. I forgot when exactly the PT demo came out, but it was around 2015, I think. And so to be clear, of course, both of these sources here were, of course, Rely on Horror and a Capcom Insider. Again, like we said before, I said a gamer. I will link all of the links that I am referencing down below in the description, and that is essentially what these two said last week. And so going back to what happened this weekend, we had some interesting things where there was a 4chan post that was dug up from the grave, essentially, as this 4chan post was posted on January 13th of 2020, so about 2 months ago, or actually 3 months ago. Wow, the year is flying by. But this post was posted on January on 4chan, and this random poster alleges to be an employee from Konami, right? And so this was dug up by Jack of All Controllers, and they do directly, you know, make the statement that, hey, why are we reporting on a 4chan post? And it's because they are seeing that this information from this post back in January is lining up with both Rely on Horror and the Aesthetic Gamers Twitter thread down below that we got last week is lining up with that, as well as they apparently have their own end of sources that have confirmed this, you know, for them to be true. And so that's pretty much all they, you know, said there, was that, hey, because what this 4chan post has, it lines up with the rumors that we got at the end of last week that we talked about early on in the video, as well as it lines up with what they have with their own sources. They deem this to be true. So I wanted to kind of just unpack this post, and this is going to be the main bulk of what we're talking about here, because there's some interesting stuff here with this post. Diving into the post here, it says, hello, I'm an employee from Konami. Sorry for my bad English. I heard for a little moment that Sony wants to buy franchises such as Metal Gear, Silent Hill, and Castlevania. They want to remake MG1 and MG2 SS just ideologically after the 5th part is suitable. The one and only Kojima is involved, and it's a PS5 exclusive. And what's interesting here is that the post also points out that there is going to be a Silent Hill soft reboot that has the backing of Toyama and Masahiro Ito, which of course those two individuals work at Japan Studio, so which links this whole Soft Hill reboot back to being developed by Japan Studio, with having those two involved in the project. But what's also interesting is that, of course, this Silent Hill soft reboot is going to be a PS5 exclusive. That's pretty much a given, as well as maybe Ikumu Nakamura is also involved, which, if you guys remember her, Homegirl was the lady that was up on stage talking about Ghostwire Tokyo at E3 2019. She was great. She was very just endearing, very much was down with the project. But since then, she has left Ghostwire Tokyo's project and left the whole studio as a whole, and has been shopping around and looking at different studios and stuff like that. And then she's been posting a lot on Twitter, and she has, you know, stopped by different Sony studios as well. So maybe this is true. Like maybe she's also involved in this Silent Hill soft reboot that is going to be developed by Japan Studio. And certainly this post did say it all the way back in January. And then the post goes on to also continue on with, it says that she's with SIE now, which that totally has not been confirmed yet, but apparently this post says that she is with Sony Interactive Entertainment right now. And lastly here, they go into Castlevania, which is supposed to get a full reboot, with Japan Studio also at the helm of this project, and it's supposed to be a very Bloodborne style. And so they do reference that it's more like a Lords of Shadow game, but they also make it real that this is not a 2D game, and it is a PS5 exclusive as well. And so that's essentially what we got right now. So I know that's a lot of information. There's a lot of wheels turning here, but essentially, long story short, is that Sony is looking to essentially revive the Silent Hills Kojima game, as well as a Silent Hill soft reboot. And now the Silent Hills Kojima game is supposed to be this episodic experience that's supposed to roll out to a similar tone of like Until Dawn and other games of that ilk. And there's also going to be a Castlevania full reboot that is a 3D game that looks a little bit like Bloodborne in its style and format of game. And to top it all off, we have Ikumi Nakamura, who is supposed to be involved with Japan Studio in the Silent Hill reboot, as well as Japan Studio is also working on the Castlevania full reboot, if I didn't mention that as well. All these games so it'll be for PS5. Oh, also, they want to remake Metal Gear 1 and Metal Gear 2 as well, with Kojima's involvement in that as well. PS5 exclusive. You can already tell. I just recapped all those things. This seems too much and too good to be true, right? Like, that is what my whole takeaway here is, that this is a lot, right? There's a lot going on, and I'm not saying that I don't believe any of this, because we have been through so much right now in this video. Like, there is so much info that it's clear that something is going on, right? And maybe all these are going on. Like, maybe we will actually see all of these come out on PS5 eventually and stuff like that, and maybe everything here is correct. But I feel like there is so much that I'm not saying that all of it is wrong. I'm saying that there's no way that all of this could be right. If it's right, I don't know what I'm gonna do, guys. I like this is a lot. This is a lot to take in, because there's also some things that aren't really lining up, wholeheartedly, and that is that in the 4chan post, they make it directly, this employee from Konami does say that Sony wants to buy these franchises off of Konami, those of course being Metal Gear, Silent Hill, and Castlevania. However, in the reports that we got later on, that was last week, at the end of last week, that we did, of course, Joyka's Gamecast on, where we had Rely on Horror and Aesthetic Gamer do those threads. They say that Sony has no intention on buying these IP right off of Konami. They just want to fund them and make them happen for the PS5. And so those two things aren't really conflicting that well, because obviously they are saying two different things. But I think it would be a little bit unrealistic for Sony to somehow buy all of Konami's IP that are huge. I mean, not of course all of it, but those three, those being Metal Gear, Castlevania, and Silent Hills, right? Like, I would love to see the price tag on all those three IP and exactly how much that is going to cost, because that would be insane, and it would kind of like blow the wind out of Konami as a whole. Like, I feel like they would want to somehow use this IP in the future, them being so big and stuff like that. So maybe they're just like, screw it, take it all, Sony, have fun, give us our money, whatever. But I feel like them buying all the IP like would be actually insane, right? But most importantly, let me know what you all think down in the comments below. Was I wrong about anything here? Did you interpret something else in like another way? What are your thoughts on all of this work around Sony trying to capture allegedly Metal Gear, Castlevania, and Silent Hill for the PS5 and different stuff like that? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. And make sure also, while you are down there, to check out our description, where you can find our Twitter, our Discord, as well as our Anchor link to listen to our long form content in podcast format. That, of course, being Road to Part 2, Road to Final Fantasy 7, as well as Save Slot Podcast. Make sure to leave a like on the video, as well as hit subscribe to PlayStation Source to keep up with the latest and greatest in PlayStation. Thank you for watching, and as always, greatness awaits.